Imagine spending 3 years in paradise with the love of your life, only to return home and discover that 3 centuries have passed and everyone you ever knew has turned to dust. This actually happened to a Celtic warrior named Oisín, and his story reveals something terrifying about reality itself. The ancient Celts didn't just tell stories about magical realms. They mapped actual doorways to dimensions where time breaks down, where the dead give advice to the living, and where stepping through the wrong portal could age you 300 years in a single heartbeat. What they discovered about the nature of reality will make you question everything you think you know about time, death, and consciousness itself. The Celtic Otherworld wasn't a distant heaven or hell. It was right here, separated from our reality by the thinnest of veils. Today, we're diving deep into the forgotten journeys that heroes and ordinary mortals made into these mystical realms. Journeys that reveal the true nature of Celtic spiritual beliefs and their understanding of life, death, and everything beyond. You're about to discover why these weren't just myths, but complex maps of consciousness itself. The Celts believed in multiple otherworlds, each accessible through specific gateways. Unlike modern religious concepts, these weren't distant afterlives, but parallel dimensions that existed alongside our world. The seethy mounds, underwater caves, and ancient forests weren't just geographical features, they were cosmic doorways. The most famous of these realms was Tir na Nog, the land of youth, where time flowed like honey. But there was also Tek Duin, the house of the dead, and the other world beneath the waves, ruled by Manannán mac Lir. Each realm had its own laws, its own inhabitants, and its own tests for mortal visitors. One of the most haunting tales involves Oisín, the warrior poet, who fell in love with Niamh of the golden hair. She appeared to him riding across the surface of a lake, her horse's hooves never touching the water. Niamh wasn't just beautiful, she was a being from Tir na Nog, and she offered Oisín something no mortal had ever refused: eternal youth. But here's what most people don't understand about this story. When Oisín accepted her invitation, he wasn't just choosing love. He was choosing to exist outside of linear time. In Tir na Nog, he lived for what felt like 3 years. When homesickness finally drove him to visit his homeland, he discovered that 300 years had passed in the mortal world. The moment his foot touched earthly soil, those 3 centuries caught up with him instantly. He crumbled to dust, teaching us that crossing between worlds always comes with a price. Before Oisín's tale, there was Bran mac Fabail, whose journey reveals even deeper mysteries about Celtic Otherworld navigation. Bran didn't stumble into the Otherworld. He was summoned by a woman who appeared in his hall carrying a silver branch with white blossoms that never fell. This woman sang of the island of joy, where sorrow was unknown and music filled the air eternally. But here's the crucial detail. She told Bran that this island could only be found by those who truly believed in its existence. This wasn't just poetic language. It was describing how consciousness itself shapes reality. Bran gathered 27 warriors and set sail westward. During their journey, they encountered Manannán mac Lir, the sea god, who revealed that what mortals see as ocean, the otherworld inhabitants see as flowery plains. The same space contained multiple realities simultaneously. In Welsh Celtic tradition, the Mabinogi tales contain some of the most complex otherworld journeys. Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed, exchanged places with Arawn, king of the otherworld realm of Annan. For an entire year, Pwyll ruled in Annan, while Arawn governed Dyfed. But this wasn't just a simple swap. During his year in Annan, Pwyll faced tests that revealed his true character. The greatest test came when he slept beside Arawn's wife, yet never touched her, proving his honor even when no one from his world would ever know. This restraint didn't just earn him Arawn's friendship, It granted him supernatural insights that made him a better ruler in his own realm. Why did these stories matter so much to the Celts that they preserved them across centuries of conquest and conversion? The answer lies in understanding that these weren't entertainment. They were encoded wisdom about the nature of reality itself. Every otherworld journey follows a specific pattern that mirrors the Celtic understanding of consciousness. The hero must first receive a call from the otherworld, often through a supernatural being or magical object. They must then cross a boundary, water, mist, or an entrance that appears only under specific conditions. In the otherworld, they face tests that challenge not their physical strength, but their spiritual integrity. But here's what makes these journeys truly remarkable. Every hero who returns brings back something that changes their world forever. Oisín returned with poetry that could move stones to tears. Bran brought back knowledge of lands beyond the sea. Will returned with the wisdom to rule justly. However, this knowledge always comes with loss. Oisín aged 3 centuries in a moment. Bran's men grew old and died when they looked back toward their homeland. The otherworld gives generously, but it demands payment in the currency of innocence. Archaeological evidence suggests that Celtic druids mapped these otherworld journeys onto actual geographical locations. Stone circles, burial mounds, and sacred groves weren't random. They marked places where the boundary between worlds grew thin. The festival of Samhain, which we now know as Halloween, wasn't about celebrating death. It was the night when all otherworld gateways opened simultaneously. During Samhain, the dead could return, the living could visit the otherworld, and prophecies could be received directly from supernatural sources. Recent archaeological discoveries at sites like Newgrange in Ireland reveal that these ancient structures were designed to channel specific astronomical alignments, suggesting that the Celts believed the otherworld connections were strongest during certain celestial events. One crucial aspect often overlooked is the role of women in these journeys. In almost every tale, it's a woman from the otherworld who initiates the journey. These aren't passive love interests. They're powerful beings who choose their mortal partners based on specific qualities. Niamh chose Oisín not just for his beauty, but for his ability to weave words into magic through poetry. The woman with the silver branch chose Bran because he had the courage to believe in impossible things. These otherworld women were testing mortals for qualities that couldn't be measured in battle. Imagination, faithfulness, and the ability to see beyond surface reality. The most psychologically sophisticated aspect of these tales lies in what happens when heroes return to the mortal world. They're forever changed, carrying within them the knowledge that reality is far more fluid than most people believe. This knowledge makes them powerful, but also isolates them from their communities. The true secret of Celtic otherworld journeys wasn't about escaping reality, it was about expanding it. The Celts understood something that modern psychology is only beginning to rediscover. Consciousness itself can access different states of being, different ways of experiencing time and space. When Oisín touched the ground and aged instantly, he wasn't being punished. He was experiencing the full weight of linear time all at once, something his consciousness had been shielded from while in the otherworld. When Bran's men looked back and aged, they were confronting the fact that time itself is perspective dependent. These weren't primitive superstitions. They were sophisticated explorations of consciousness, time, and the nature of reality itself. The Celts developed a mythology that contained advanced concepts about parallel dimensions, time dilation, and the role of consciousness in shaping experience. Concepts that modern physics is still working to understand. The Celtic otherworld journeys represent some of humanity's earliest recorded attempts to map the landscape of consciousness itself. These heroes weren't just traveling to magical lands. They were exploring different states of being, different relationships with time and reality. Every journey followed the same pattern: call, crossing, testing, revelation, and return with consequences. This pattern appears in shamanic traditions worldwide, suggesting that the Celts had tapped into something universal about human consciousness and its ability to transcend ordinary reality. The price these heroes paid, aging, separation, loss of innocence, reflects the Celtic understanding that expanded consciousness comes with responsibility. Knowledge of the other world changed you permanently, making you a bridge between worlds, but also setting you apart from those who had never crossed the boundary. These weren't just stories about magic. They were training manuals for consciousness itself, preserved in mythological form to survive conquest, conversion, and the passage of centuries. The Celts knew that the other world wasn't somewhere else. It was here, now, accessible to those with the courage to step beyond the boundaries of ordinary perception. If these Celtic otherworld journeys blew your mind and made you realize how much hidden wisdom exists in ancient mythology, then you need to hit that like button right now. These stories aren't just entertaining. They're keys to understanding consciousness itself, and there are thousands more like them waiting to be uncovered. Subscribe and turn on notifications because we're diving deeper into the most mind-bending mythologies from around the world, revealing the secrets that ancient cultures encoded in their stories. Share this video with someone who thinks they know everything about mythology. Trust me, they don't. And drop a comment telling me which other world you'd be brave enough to enter, because your answer reveals more about your psyche than you might think.